Welcome to the Bro Science Podcast. We are back again with a jingle. Martin, Santiago, say hi.
Hello,
Hey
hello.
everyone. With hey everyone.
Today we have
Listening everyone.
another juicy topic straight from Santiago's brain. He has delighted us with some new information. Santiago, take it away.
Estoy en mi podcast. No, ya apareciste.
Santiago, that's not the topic.
Huh?
What happened? I froze
He
for a
just,
bit.
No,
yeah, I know, and
my,
I was
my,
like, I
my dad's in
introduced
the
it, and
podcast.
Santiago,
My dad's in the
Santiago,
podcast.
take it away.
I can cut
Hello
that
everyone.
part if you want.
Nah, leave
Sure.
it. It's good. It's good.
Right, everyone met my dad. The science topic I had for today, very sciencey, is I was watching Modern Family the other day. And there's a scene. For anyone that hasn't watched Modern Family, it's about just this generic like family that goes about their life. Very much what the name of the show entails. It's a modern family going through their problems and happy moments. And at one point, the husband of the family, Phil Dunphy, is getting a manicure, as he does, with like a bunch of his girlfriends. Um, and while he's getting the manicure, all relaxed, he gets a call from Claire, his wife, and Claire's all up in arms about the fact that one of their daughters, uh, like tore apart the sweater that she had taken from one of her sisters, so she now
Mm.
needs to get a replacement. And Claire's now worrying about this, the mother, and she's trying to get the same sweater, the exact same sweater from the same shop, before the sister that owned the sweater gets home and notices that the sweater is torn apart. So she's like running around the city searching for his sweater and calls Dunphy and tells him about the problem. And Phil goes and like gives her advice about the fact that she could instead just go back home, explain to Haley, which is the girl that now lost the sweater, that they're going to have to buy a new sweater and they could do it some other day with a bit more like calm, um, and just explain it to her and she will understand. That's what Phil tells Claire on the phone while he's getting a manicure. And then Claire replies by saying like, hey, I don't agree, I just need you to understand what I'm doing and like go home and fix dinner for the family. And really doesn't absorb or take into account what Phil's trying to suggest to her. He's trying to give her advice and she doesn't really care. And as soon as Phil hangs up, he looks around and all his girlfriends that are getting manicures with him look at him like with a straight face, all mad because and angry because he doesn't understand what women need. Um,
Mm.
like what women need when they call for a problem and they don't ask for a solution. That's what they try to tell him, that if she didn't ask for a suggestion or a way of solving the problem, then he shouldn't have given it in the first place. And I was watching this show, and I go towards my sister because I was watching it with my sister in the first place, and I told her I couldn't disagree more. Like I completely get that Phil's trying just to give his point, and there's no reason for Claire to be mad about it. Um, so yeah, it got into a very like good discussion on if it should matter and if men should give their points as they normally do. There's quite a few like things about this topic. So there's the one that a woman sometimes might feel like their problems being minimized when the man goes ahead and tries to give a solution immediately.
Mm.
Um, but it could go about in a few ways.
Mm. So yeah, I guess I kind of agree with you, but I kind of don't. Um, I think that in any like healthy relationship, caring about and trying to understand someone else's emotions and trying to cater for those is really important. So let's say Claire, right, on the phone, she's just really emotionally stressed and nervous, and she's not in the headspace for a solution. That's what it sounds like. So it sounds like she just needs someone to listen. Yeah. So really, she wants Phil to be emotionally balanced. But the thing is, and this is why I also agree with you, is because she's asking something from Phil that if she gets angry when he gives her a solution, she's not reciprocating. For example, so he gives a solution. Let's say because he's not aware that she's stressed, or he's not aware of his emotions, right? If she then gets angry at that, then she's not aware that he's just trying to help and he's just trying to care. So then she's neglecting his emotions, and what he's really trying to do. So if she's angry, that's kind of hypocritical in my mind, you know. Um, that's how I see that. So, and I actually learnt this like with like my mum, because my mum, for example, she would always like tell me what to do, and I'm like, why? Like
Wait,
it's
wait,
just a
parenthesis. As you were saying that, I was thinking I also learned that from my mom in the
yeah.
same way.
You just learn it from right. You learn it from your
Okay, keep
mum.
going. Keep going, keep going.
So yeah, I learnt this from my mum. Like my mum, she'd always bathe me. She'd always tell me, she's like, "Where's this? Where's that?" What? I'm like, "Oh, leave me alone for like 5 seconds, right?" And I used to get really frustrated, right? And our relationship was a bit, like, and this was when I was younger. And then I realized, I'm like, hold up. If I'm just a little bit emotionally balanced, I can realize that although what she's saying is one thing, she's just trying to care. Fundamentally, she just cares. So if I just have a little bit of patience, right, then I can see that she cares. So so now she'll do the same thing. She'll tell me what to do, whatever, and then I'll just take responsibility in the scenario and realize, nah, she just cares. Thanks, mum.
I didn't
Thank
learn
you.
the same thing. I
Okay.
thought we were going in the same direction,
Nah.
but not really. But it's kind of related also.
Yeah.
So the difference in what I learned, well, it's basically the same, but I would, when I was younger, I would just go out a lot and just do whatever I wanted. Like I wouldn't really care about what my parents say about that.
Mm.
I was also economically independent, so it wasn't a problem, and maybe my ways weren't the best. Um, but the thing is, my mom was like all the time, you are not thinking about me, you're not thinking on how I feel, you're not thinking on what I might think of this, think of that, or whatever. But,
Mm.
and what I would think in that moment is, yes, you're right, but you're also not thinking on what I'm feeling and what I think, and what I think it's the best for me, and whatever. So
Mm.
I think we in this we find like a problem in being individualistic about our emotions, is that
Mm.
like we expect the other ones most of the time to recognize our emotions, but in
Yep.
doing so we're not also respecting and recognizing their feelings.
That's a really good way of putting it. That's a really good way of putting it. Mm.
Eh, yeah, and
Yeah. Wow.
going back to the to the topic, like to the main topic about the, like, the advice thing. I think a lot of people don't really look for it, and maybe it's more women, maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe we can get into the gender specific part later, but I think a lot of people think that they're asking for advice, but they're actually not, because as soon as you give them some advice that they don't like, uh, they get all defensive, and
Mm.
I think people, or for example, why do I like that example of Phil and Claire? Because Phil gave her an advice that would put Claire in a uncomfortable scenario with which child was it?
Haley.
Haley. Yeah. So that advice would put Claire in the scenario of confronting Haley, and um, whatever that would um, whatever that would imply. But in the other scenario, Claire was avoiding all that conflict with Riley, and I think that might be also a reason why she didn't like the advice and why she got all more stressed and everything because
I think yeah. The way they say it, it's exactly what you just said. In the show, she's trying to avoid it, and she explicitly tells Phil, "I'm trying to avoid like a tough situation with you."
yeah,
Mm,
And
so
Phil
I
replies by
think
saying, "No, she'll understand. I'm sure."
yeah, so I think that changes the discussion a little bit because maybe I don't remember the episode correctly. I for sure watched it because I watched the whole series, but I don't remember. But if what Claire said, the problem was is that she wanted to to fix whatever happened to the sweater of Rayleigh. Then I don't think Phil did anything bad. But if the problem that Claire would have to tell Phil was, I don't want conflict. I don't want to confront Haley or whatever. Because in that scenario, Phil can think of another solution to not have a problem with Riley. Um, but Claire put a problem, and Phil tried to give a solution. Um,
mm,
but Claire didn't like it because that wasn't fixing the actual problem that Claire was having, that is confronting Haley. That was fixing the Haley knowing about the thing.
Right. But the question of the episode, or that scene in specific, is not about if he gave the right answer to the actual problem, but it's instead he shouldn't have given any sort of tips if he isn't asked for them.
yeah,
But I think most of the time people don't know what they want, and I think that this is a very specific scenario of that. Because I'm pretty sure if Phil would have said something like, I don't know, go to this mall and get the sweater on this shop because I'm sure they have it, Claire would have say, okay, thank you,
Right.
right? And he gave
oh,
her an advice, and I don't know, I'm just speculating, but I'm
yeah,
pretty sure that would have happened. I think that
Mm.
would have happened. And why is that? Because
mm,
he because he would have given an advice that Claire would have liked. And that's the problem, that we don't
mm.
want advice that help us, we want advice that we want to hear. And I've seen that with friends, and not
That is true.
But, but isn't that a
Mm,
problem in the first place? Like everyone should be
yeah,
ready
of
to
course.
listen to every sort of
I
suggestion.
agree. I agree, and that's why I agree with Phil. That's why I don't think Claire was. Um, but we're humans, right? We
yeah.
feel that way. But I've seen that with friends. Like just let's put as a really simple example. Like, let's say a friend comes to you and say, "I want a six pack," and I say, "Okay, stop eating garbage. Start eating good and go to the gym and exercise." They are like, no, I'll see something else, or whatever. They're not looking like for the actual solution. They're looking. They're trying to hear something that will make them feel good.
Mm.
Yeah.
I I agree with you, Martin. I think you're touching like the root of the problem, but I think there's two dynamics going on here. There's the whole the advice side and the actual advice you're giving and how someone's taking it. So, for example, like Claire, her issues, she has an emotional issue and a logical issue. So she has a problem with Haley or whatever, and that's causing her emotions to rise. She's feeling tense, she's feeling stressed, she's feeling whatever. So, and I think what the show's touching on, and what the girls at the nail salon, when they were like, "Oh, Phil," was he shouldn't be addressing the root problem. He should first address the emotional issue that's arisen from the root problem.
I
Which
disagree
in
with
in a
that.
no, but in our mindset, and this is the thing. This is, I guess, the dynamic between in general, women and men, is men think about, no, let's get the logic right. Let's fix the root issue. And girls like, no, no, first, I want to alleviate the emotional side and then fix the problem. First, listen to me. And that's the dynamic here, you
I
know?
I might agree with you with what you're saying, but I think the problem is that we're thinking that the logical problem is producing the emotional problem, and I think it's the other way around. I think if it wasn't because of Claire did not wanting to confront Rayleigh, sorry, she would not care about the logical problem about the getting the new sweater. She only cares about getting the new sweater because she doesn't want to confront Haley, and that's the emotional problem. So the emotional problem is the root, not the logical part. But the thing is, Claire tells Phil about the logical problem, and that's why Phil tries to give a solution to the logical problem. Did have did Phil try
Hmm.
have to give a solution? Maybe not, but I think if Claire would have said feel the emotional problem instead of the logical one, that in my opinion it's the root. Maybe Phil could have given a better advice. That
Hmm.
again, maybe it's not needed. That's again other discussion. But I think that was wrong from Claire in the first place, like because that produced Phil trying to give an advice on that, even though she didn't want an advice on that.
Wow, this is deep.
Yeah. So sorry, Martin, I lost you a bit, but did you did you refer to something that
Hmm.
Claire's emotions when he called Phil were right in the first place? Is that something
Sorry, I
along the
didn't
lines of what
understand
you
your
said?
question.
So like the
I'm not.
emotions that
I don't think emotions are right, but I think if it wasn't because of the emotions, the logical part of the problem wouldn't wouldn't exist. Like if there wasn't a problem confronting Riley, then Claire
Hmm.
wouldn't care about trying to get any sweater.
Hmm.
And that for me that like that gives like the logical proof that the root of all this issue is the emotional problem instead of the trying to get the sweater. Trying to get the sweater is like it's the solution, but again it's also a problem because she doesn't know how to execute that.
Hmm. I think to change this discussion a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Let's say this plays out in our lives. Like we're 40, we've got our wife, we're doing our nails, um,
Man,
right?
we will be there.
Yeah, oh, 100%, man. I'll do it, right? So we're there, right? And then this exact situation happens. How would you handle it differently to Phil? My answer is yes, but I want to hear your one and why.
I think I'd again I'm not sure because yeah we will it will be like in 20 years time and but
Who knows?
my guess is that I would first try to really understand the root of the problem, and that's something that I usually try to do, like not focus on what appears to be the problem, but what's behind it, and maybe what's behind that, and maybe what's behind that. Um, so I would try to like really find the root of the problem, and then again I would try to give an advice. I don't think I feel did anything wrong there.
Mm,
I feel if someone gives you an advice and you get mad of because of that, I think that there's a problem with you, not with the other person. You can always just ignore an advice.
mm,
An
okay.
advice is just that. It's just a suggestion. You don't need to take it. You don't need to get mad about it either. That's my guess.
Okay. Santiago, what would you do?
um I think I see myself more as a logical person. So mm, 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 tell me if I didn't understand the question well, but in 40 years time,
What do you think you
from
would do in that same
yeah,
scenario?
in
Your
that
wife calls
situation,
you.
I think I would have done the same as Phil, in the state I'm in now, because I haven't understood the importance of sometimes don't need to be as logical, and sometimes just people need to be heard so they can validate their own um their own
Mm,
their own thoughts, and they just need to be listened to, and you need to validate them so they can figure out their own solution, specific especially if the problem's not that determinant to like something very big, or if it's not very important in the first place. Sometimes you can just let go and let them like work through it. I think it also serves as for them to have a more sense of accomplishment if you guide them through it instead of giving them solutions. Um, I think there is a benefit in not directly giving the solution to them, whether it's validating them or them feeling more accomplished. But I feel like if I were to be in that place now, I would just try and give suggestions because I haven't understood the benefits of doing otherwise.
Mm,
Did
well,
my point come through?
yeah, yep.
And I
But I
think
don't
that,
know. I think you're very good at hearing people, man. I think you. Yeah, I
yeah,
think
I disagree
No, no,
with what
I
you
don't know.
said in that.
no.
Knowing you, I'm like, is that really what you do? I don't know. But anyways,
I mean, okay, good point. It's just that maybe, yeah, maybe I'm mixing things because when I see Phil doing it, I, yeah, I'm probably mixing things. When I see Phil doing it, I see there's nothing wrong with what he did. So that's why I'm saying I would have done the same. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think there was anything wrong with Phil.
yeah. In all
Mm-mm.
honesty, maybe I wouldn't have done the same. I would have probably listened to the person, sympathized with them first, like gone like, oh, that's a bummer. Like, que baja. How do you say it? That's a bummer.
yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
that's a bummer.
kibaha. No, kibaha. That's good. I like that.
I
and
think
then
Phil.
jump to
Sorry, go.
no, yeah, no, and then jump to what Phil was saying.
Yeah, I feel. Do you remember that joke in
Mm,
Modern Family about
Feel
Sofia
me.
Vergara? Yeah, Sofia Vergara with a nice dress and Phil saying like, "Is that I don't know something like some material?" And she says, "Yes, Phil," and Phil thinks she's saying "Phil" instead of Phil.
Feel
oh right.
feel
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah.
And he starts touching. Okay, anyway, I don't think Phil did anything wrong,
Yeah.
but not understanding that not that sometimes people have like insecurities and they're not 100% logical and they're not looking for advice or they're not or they don't want to hear advice they're not comfortable with um
I okay.
but I couldn't put that responsibility in anyone like
Yeah.
everyone cannot be worrying all the time about everyone else's being mature enough to handle whatever you're going to say.
Mm. So yeah, okay. I'd actually handle this situation differently. Um, because I just like I feel like I would give advice to someone when I think they don't know the solution, right? I think in this case Claire actually knows the real solution. She just doesn't want to face it. So she's got an emotional based problem. So to fix to actually help Claire fix what's going on, it's not tell her what she already knows. That'll just piss her off more, right? Right? I completely ignore the solution, and it's probably not like it's a little bit manipulative. It's like giving a dog a pill that he needs to take and putting it in peanut butter because dogs like peanut butter and then giving it to them, right? What I'm gonna do is I would just see how she's going, see how she's feeling, calm her down, and then slightly suggest, like, I know you know this is the way to go, do it, kind of thing. So I'm
But
kind of
what's
padding her emotion. I'm padding that emotional issue, her emotions, right? I'm validating her feelings that like, uh, really it's her fault anyways, and then kind of now she's feeling comfortable, and then telling. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a little bit different.
Yeah,
Um,
but again,
it's
I
because
don't
I'm just
remember.
trying to get a result. I'm just trying to get results.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
do you know what I'm saying?
But again, I don't remember the episode. But from what I understand, from what Santi has been saying, Claire wasn't clear enough about the problem being that she doesn't want to face Riley, but how to get
no,
the
she
sweater.
was.
Okay, then forget what I'm saying.
No,
Hmm.
she says I want to avoid this becoming like a big thing with Haley.
Hmm.
That's what she says. That's her
Okay,
Okay.
main problem.
then my the point I was trying to make doesn't make sense. So forget.
Yeah. And I guess the
Okay.
reason I'm saying what I'm saying is because I did a counseling, or like I started a counseling course when I was like in 2019 because I thought about doing it. And one of the ways they talked about counseling was they taught us, they're like, you don't know everyone's issues or problems, and you can't actually give advice to everyone because you don't know their best solution. What you have to realize is that people actually know their solutions. They generally just don't want to face them, and that's been that's why they'll come to counseling a lot of the time. They'll come with all these issues and problems and whatever. They know the solution. It's just so, it's just like kind of dropping our own ego when listening sometimes and realizing that the other person knows what's going on, you know?
Then how
Anyways.
do
Yeah.
you lead a person effectively to find to like realize how they know the solution in the first place? So how would Martin, how would you go about like actually making your friend aware that just the right solution to get a six pack is to stop eating as much junk food? How would you guide them in that way instead of like repeating it over and over to them because they know that
Yeah.
that's the right way?
I think some people are just not ready sometimes.
There is that as well. Yep.
But how can you be not ready if you put like the desire on one hand that he really wants to get a six pack
No,
and
that
the
but
and the and the
that's
capability of doing it, he can just like stop eating junk food.
that sounds logical, but that's not reality. Like people want good bodies, but they don't
Right,
work
I
towards
know,
them. They want good salaries, but they don't work towards them.
but what does it mean
Mm,
People
to not be ready? That's my question. If
people are not ready to
everything's
put people are not ready to face, let's say, solutions in this case
mm,
that will put you in an uncomfortable position in order to
yep.
solve whatever you
and
want to solve.
what's missing? Because when you're not ready, something's missing. So what's
Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to know that. I'd love to figure that out because I'd love to help people. That's like what
what
I love doing, like trying to help people towards
Yeah.
their goals. But what
Let's
I feel
go.
is that when they're ready, like then it's all good because they can do it. But sometimes they just get defensive and they just like, okay, forget about whatever I was trying to ask you, or I don't know. And in those cases, yeah, you're right. I have no idea
Mm.
how to how to fix it.
Charlie, any tips you got when you were doing your course to being a counselor? What did they say to you? Like,
Um,
you know,
Actually, this is the one thing that I learned when doing it. So when you're counseling, it's a little bit different. People are coming to you with really intense problems, right? And what they said, that you have to set up your own boundaries to realize that someone else's issues aren't yours. They're not. Otherwise, you'll get something called, I think it's secondary traumatization or whatever, right? So then you'll feel their issues and the responsibility press you down. No, no, no. Their issue's their issue. When they're ready to face it, they will. All
what's
you have to do
bro-
is listen.
sorry.
So, like for example, if like for example, this gym example, right? If someone keeps coming to me, I want to go to the gym, I want to go to the gym, I want whatever, and then doesn't, I'm not gonna like look. Sometimes you can like be like you tell them the truth because maybe they're feeling a bit skewed, but in most of the time I'm like okay, sure, and if they don't do it, that's their issue. Like you've got to. They know the reason why they're not going. They know it's because they realize, oh, I'm not consistent, or I get distracted with games, or I get. They know their issue. They're just not ready to put that aside, and they gotta get out of bed and be like, no, that's it. I've
Yeah,
had enough.
but I think what
It's
Santi is
on
trying to
them.
ask, okay, how do you help them? Okay,
Become
they know
ready.
that issue. How do you help them become ready? And
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
good discussion that I have no idea and I'd love to know. But
Mm, so for me, it's again like being a sounding board. Sometimes letting like just listening, you know, and then from listening, you can probably gauge what's happening. Sometimes you do need to kind of slap someone over the head. There is that as well. And that's the part where you give advice. So, for example, like, I mean, I've had friends that have had like, I've got one friend, like, I'll just keep naming out, just bad relationship to bad relationship, right? And I'm like, I'll just sit there on the side. I'm like, that's it. I've had enough. Sit him down. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why? Like, you need to stop this and he's like, yeah, I know, I know. I'm like, mate, when are you gonna do it? Come on, I'm believing in you, give him a bit of encouragement, whatever. Guess what? Still doing it. So I've done my part. That's it. There's nothing I can do to help him. He has to make the decision now. Like I can't. I'm just gonna love him from here. Like not. I'm not gonna get rolled up in that mess. Um, yeah, there's nothing else you can do, or nothing else I know that you can
Well,
do.
yeah, I think there's a few things that come to mind. That's a good example
Yeah,
you
Yeah.
right.
gave. Like your examples backs up the fact that sometimes you're just able to listen, but then I think there are a few tools or strategies you can do to finally convince someone to take action. I think testimonies are one of them. Being
Mm.
inspired by someone that was successful in something that you want to do or
David
aspire to do.
Goggins.
I think so. Like becoming ready to finally take action might be being inspired by seeing someone that you admire do the same thing or having accomplished the same thing.
It's
So
good.
like you might think with
Mm.
David Goggins. And I imagine like that there must be other ways that people finally get that intrinsic motivation. The one that I wrote down in my whiteboard right here this morning, and it's written by James Clear in his book Atomic Habits. I happen to really like this quote, and it's one that I come back to a lot when I'm questioning what I'm doing. So like if I'm eating a burger for the third time in a row, I generally like think about this, and it says the ultimate form the ultimate
It's
form
fuck.
of intrinsic the ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. So like when you
Yeah.
so like and it goes hand in hand with like having someone you admire do the things you want to do. What you want to become that person. When you realize that for you to be jacked up, you need to go to the gym because you want to be the person that's jacked up, then that's a big motivator as well. Um,
But then letting that become your identity, being like, I'm the jacked up guy, then you keep
yeah,
going to the gym, and I think that's what James Clear is talking about,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is psychologically extremely powerful. I couldn't agree more. Like,
I
and
agree
that's
on
why,
that as
like,
well.
when I want to do something and become something, a lot of the time I'll start trying to speak it, and then hopefully what I say will sink into like your being of who you are, you know. And then another
Yeah.
way that I do that as well is like you set goals, and then once you start, like you even set small ones, because once you start seeing little bits of evidence, then you're actually convincing yourself of a fact. So, like for example, let's say I'm like, do this at work, like I don't know, like teach this person this and grow the business in this way. And when you start seeing that, you're like, wow, I am a leader. And then you believe it, and what you believe, you become, you know? But that's yeah, this is like some awesome psychology, like motivational psychology. Epic. Love it. Um yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and I have a third thing to add to this, and maybe we
Yeah.
can wrap it up after this because I know Santi's uh, low on time. But
Good
the
man.
third thing, and I think I've just spoke about this a lot in the podcast, and I think Javi has as well. Is just
Mm.
getting into uncomfortable scenarios whenever you can, because
Yeah.
when you're just get yourself into uncomfortable scenarios, it's just easier to get done whatever you have to do or whatever you want to achieve, or it's just
Mm.
I don't know, it's just like there's something there. There's something there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. But look, that was a sick podcast. I loved how we started going into the motivational stuff. So fun. We could even talk about motivational psychology next week if we want, because I love it.
Yeah, next week. Okay, next week we'll talk about uh,
Oh,
growth
so
mindset,
good.
and
Oh, I'm reading a book on it right now. Growth in fixed mindset.
I'll bring some researches about it.
Done. Same.
Love it, man. Cool. Okay, wanna say goodbye, Santi? Pow, brrr, pow, pow, pow. Bye, everybody.
Terms and conditions apply. Please visit the website.